Part 2. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 11. Chapter 11 is this, Dean. After the vice president left with a group of doctors and nurses, Chiao Chen looked around and was surprised. Sister, why did they change me to such a good ward? Was it arranged by my brother-in-law? Chiao Chen still doesn't know that Chiao Mian and Suzy have broken up. Not him. Chiao Mian frowned in confusion, unable to figure out the situation. Suzette broke up with her, so it's impossible for her to be so kind. Father Chiao is even more impossible. This VIP ward looks very high-end. Living here without doing anything for a day will cost a lot of money. No one in the Chiao family can afford this kind of money. Who is that? Who is so kind-hearted that he would help these two siblings for no reason? Chiao Mian was puzzled. Knock, knock, knock. There was a knock on the door suddenly. Chiao Mian walked over and opened the door. There was a little nurse standing outside. When he saw her, he smiled and said, Miss Chiao, our dean wants to talk to you about your brother's condition. Please come with me. Chiao Mian was startled, with surprise in her eyes. The dean is looking for me. Yes. Asterisk. Director's office. The little nurse led her outside the door, stretched out her hand and knocked gently on the door. The door to the office is not completely closed, but is ajar. There was a nice voice coming from inside, and it was also very young. Come in. Chiao Mian was a little startled when she suddenly heard such a young voice. She reached out and gently pushed open the door. When he walked in, he saw a rather young man sitting in front of the desk. He looked about 25 years old, with a handsome and gentle appearance. He had a pair of gold-rimmed glasses on the bridge of his nose, and he looked like a noble gentleman. This is, Dean. Chiao Mian's eyes showed undisguised surprise and surprise. Is the dean so young? She thought she was at least 50 or 60 years old. Hello, Miss Chiao, please sit down. When Chiao Mian looked at Lu Rao with surprise, Lu Rao also raised his head and looked at her with interest. Is this the little girl who had a romantic relationship with Mo Yesi? If nothing else, this face is pretty good looking. Even if she looks like noodles in clear soup, she can't hide her original beauty. Looking at the little girl who is only in her early 20s, her facial features are very delicate and her skin is white and shiny. Even he, who has seen many beauties, finds them quite stunning. After looking at it for a moment, he said with a smile, Miss Chiao, don't be restrained. We are all young people. You can treat it as a normal friend. His smile made Chiao Mian feel a little more relaxed. She nodded and sat down with a smile. Dean, I heard that you came to me to discuss my brother's condition. Chiao Mian didn't mince words and asked directly, has there been any change in Chen Chen's condition? Lu Rao picked up the coffee on the table and took a sip. There is a little change. Chiao Mian immediately became nervous. I don't know. Your brother's disease requires surgery as early as possible, the better the effect. Because of this attack, he has actually missed the best period for surgery. Chiao Mian's face suddenly changed, and her voice was almost trembling. What does it mean to miss the best period for surgery? Does it mean that I can't have surgery in the future? It's not that the operation cannot be performed, but the postoperative effect is not that good. Miss Chiao, your brother's operation cannot be delayed any longer. I know. Chiao Mian clenched her fists. I will find a way to get him to have surgery as soon as possible. But, you just said that if he has surgery now, the postoperative effect will not be very good. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 12. Chapter 12. Mo will never see you without an appointment. Then it depends on who performs the surgery on him. Lu Rao pretended to mention it casually. I know a person who is very good at doing this kind of surgery. If you can get him to come forward, Your brother's cure rate can be as high as 100%. 90. But the cure rate is as high as 90%? Chiao Mianmian's sinking heart was suddenly filled with hope. She immediately asked, but what? Dean, is this person you know a doctor in this hospital? No, Lu Rao shook his head. He is a businessman and has not practiced medicine for many years. That's why I said he may not be able to help. The glimmer of hope that had just been ignited in my heart began to fall again. Have you not practiced medicine for many years? Then will he still perform surgery on Jiao Chen? But even if there was only 1% hope, she could not give up. Jiao Chen is the only relative she cares about in this world. No matter what method she uses, she will fight for him. Dean, can you give me that person's contact information? After thinking for a moment, Chiao Mian looked at Lu Rao with a request in her eyes, and a bit of anxiety and nervousness. I want to find him. Talk. Lu Rao's eyes flashed quickly, but he pretended to be embarrassed. After being silent for a few seconds, he nodded and said, okay, I'll give you his contact information and address. But when you see him, don't let him know that I asked you to find him. Chiao Mianmian's face showed a look of joy. Thank you, Dean. Asterisk. Mo's family. Looking at the towering building in front of her, Chiao Mian stood outside the revolving glass door, feeling a little timid for a moment. But when she thought of Jiao Chen, she summoned up her courage again. After taking a deep breath, he stepped in. As soon as she reached the front desk, she was stopped. The female employees at the front desk are two very beautiful women with good figures. They wear exquisite makeup on their faces and wear several pieces of luxury brand jewelry. At first glance, she looks like a wealthy daughter. One of the female employees saw that Jiao Mian was very beautiful, and she felt a little hostile in her heart. Seeing that she was dressed very ordinary, her attitude was extremely arrogant and she said, Miss, you need to register when you are looking for someone. Who are you looking for? Chiao Mian hesitated for a moment, then said the name Lu Rao gave her. Hello, I want to find Mo Yesi, is he there? As soon as she finished speaking, she heard two gasps. The female employee, whose attitude was not very good to begin with, became even more hostile, almost glaring at her. Who are you? You actually call Mr. Mo by his first name. You need to make an appointment to see Mr. Mo. Do you have an appointment? Mr. Mo? Chiao Mian was stunned for a moment. Is the man named Mo Yesi a senior executive of this company? Judging from the reactions of these two front desk employees, they should be in a relatively low position. She said truthfully, there is no appointment. When the female employee heard that she said she didn't have an appointment, she sneered disdainfully, Mr. Mo can't meet just anyone. You don't have an appointment and you still want to see Mr. Mo? Some women these days are quite thick-skinned. Is it something you can just imagine, Mr. Mo, just because you have some good looks? Chiao Mian frowned when she heard this. She explained patiently, I think you misunderstood, I didn't. But before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by a female employee with an impatient look. We are not interested in hearing what you think. In short, Mo will not see you without an appointment. You can go. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 13. Chapter 13. I have never seen such a shameless person. Chiao Mian originally thought that Mo Yesi was an ordinary employee. I didn't expect that it would be so difficult to see him. She has already been here, and she will definitely not leave until she sees someone. She didn't say anything else to the front desk staff. Seeing a rest area nearby, she walked over and sat down, planning to wait for Mo Yesi to get off work. Seeing that she had no intention of leaving, the two female employees sneered and mocked her. "You are so thick-skinned that you refuse to leave. Mr. Mo is a stoic and doesn't like women no matter how pretty she is. Mr. Mo won't be interested in a woman like her." Asterisk. Wei Zheng went downstairs to do some work. Passing by the front desk, I was stopped by a female employee. "Assistant Wei Te, a poor woman came here and said she wanted to see Mr. Mo. We told her that Mr. Mo would not see her without an appointment, but she still refused to leave. She had already sat in the rest area for two people. We are worried that her behavior will affect the company's image. Should we ask someone to drive her away?" the female employee said while looking towards Xiao Mian. There is jealousy in his eyes. Although the woman looked poor, she had a charming face. It made her look extremely displeased. "Is anyone looking for Mr. Mo?" Wei Zheng glanced towards the rest area curiously, and when his eyes fell on Xiao Mian, he was stunned. Then, a look of surprise appeared in his eyes. "That woman, isn't she the Miss Xiao that Mr. Mo asked him to investigate before? Why is she here?" When the front desk staff saw Wei Zheng's change of expression, they thought he was also dissatisfied with Xiao Mian's refusal to leave, so his tone became more disdainful. "I have never seen such a shameless person." Wei Zheng looked at it for a few seconds and walked towards the rest area. He took out his mobile phone and made a call. After getting through, he said respectfully, "Mr. Mo, that Miss Xiao came to the company and said she wanted to see you." The man's low and cold voice came from the mobile phone. "Which Miss Xiao?" "Xiao Mian. She, Mo." Yesi seemed a little surprised. "Yes, does Mr. Mo want to see her? I heard that she has been waiting for 2 hours." After a few seconds of silence. "Bring her up." "Yes, Mr. Mo." Hang up the phone, Wei Zheng walked up to Xiao Mian. He called out politely, "Miss Xiao." Xiao Mian looked up and saw a handsome and elegant man in a suit and leather shoes standing in front of her. She was stunned for a moment. "You are Wei Zhendao, I am Mr. Mo's assistant. I just heard that Miss Xiao is looking for our Mr. Mo." Xiao Mian stood up suddenly. "Yes, I want to talk to Mo." "Yesi, no, it's Mr. Mo to talk about something. Can you take me to see him?" With a request in her eyes, as if she was afraid that he would refuse, she immediately added, "I only need 10 minutes, no, 5 minutes. I won't delay him for a long time." Wei Zhen nodded and said with a smile, "Mr. Mo has agreed to see you. Please come with me, Miss Xiao." Asterisk. The moment they saw Xiao Mian being taken into the elevator by Wei Zheng, the expressions of the two front desk employees who had been arrogant just now suddenly changed. "What's going on? Don't you want to drive her away? Assistant Wei actually brought her up. Is it possible that she really knows Mr. Mo?" The two of them thought of 10,000 possibilities, and the expressions on their faces were not very good. Asterisk. The elevator goes directly to the 37th floor. Arrived outside the president's office, Wei Zhen knocked on the door. Xiao Mian heard a low and cold voice coming from inside. It was full of magnetism and had a bit of the majesty of a superior person. "I secretly got married to a super boss." Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 14. Chapter 14. I want to ask you to do me a favor. Just listening to this sound makes people feel that the people inside are inaccessible. She followed Wei Zhen into the office feeling anxious. "Mr. Mo, Miss Xiao is here." After Wei Zheng said this, he turned and left. The door to the room was gently closed again. For a time, only Xiao Mian and the man who was sitting at his desk reading documents were the only ones left in the huge office. This is an office full of masculine atmosphere. Most of the furniture inside is black or gray. The color is very monotonous and a bit dull. Only a few potted plants slightly soften the monotonous colors in the lower room. the man with his head buried in front of the black desk. Chiao Mian raised her eyes and took a sneak peek, and felt the strong aura on the other person's body. He had a good figure and was wearing a black shirt. Because he lowered his head, Chiao Mian could only see a rough outline. But it can still be seen that his facial features are very deep and three-dimensional. Just as her eyes continued to linger on him, the man suddenly raised his head. Chiao Mian looked into a pair of deep and cold eyes. She was stunned, and when her eyes fell on the man's handsome and deep face, her heart suddenly skipped 2 beats. She has never seen such a good-looking man. The man's face was as if it had been carved by a miraculous craftsmanship. Every part and every line on his face was so perfect that there was not a single flaw to be found. His facial features are very three-dimensional and deep, with a pair of cold and deep eyes like cold stars, a high and three-dimensional bridge of his nose, and charming curve to his tightly pursed thin lips. Hand temperament is incomparable, and his whole body exudes an awe-inspiring and cold aura. His face had no expression and his eyebrows were cold. Even from a distance, Chiao Mian could feel the cold air radiating from him. When those cold star-like eyes looked towards her, she even stopped breathing for several seconds. She looked at him blankly, and for a moment, her mind went blank. Until a cold, magnetic voice sounded in my ears, "Miss Chiao." Chiao Mian came back to her senses. Recalling that she was staring at him like a just now, her face felt hot, she bit her lip, and said in a panic, "Hello, Mr. Mo. I don't know why Miss Chiao is looking for me." Chiao Mian seemed to have just come back to her senses. After hearing his question, she remembered the purpose of her coming here today. She suppressed the strange emotion in her heart, organized her thoughts, and said, "Mr. Mo, I want to ask you to do me a favor." Mo Yesi raised his eyebrows. Chiao Mian also knew that it was strange for her to suddenly ask a stranger for help, but for Chiao Chen, she didn't care so much. After being silent for a few seconds, she said, "My brother has a heart disease and needs surgery immediately. I heard that Mr. Mo used to be an authority in related fields. I hope I can help your brother perform this operation." Looking at her swollen and red face, Mo Yesi said the next unspeakable words for her. Yes, Chiao Mian breathed out and looked at him with pleading eyes, "Mr. Mo, please help my brother. He is only 19 years old, still very young." End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 15. Chapter 15. I want a wife. Mo Yesi raised his hand to interrupt her. Since Miss Chiao came to see me, she should know that I have not practiced medicine for many years. I know. Chiao Mian nodded, but I believe Mr. Mo is a good person and will not leave someone alone. Good guy. Mo Yesi smiled as if he heard something interesting. He put down a document in his hand, stood up, and walked slowly towards Chiao Mian. Walked in front of her and stopped. Chiao Mian then discovered that this man also had a very good figure. He was very tall, about 188 centimeters tall by visual inspection. Because she is 168 centimeters tall, which is not considered short among women, but standing in front of him, she is barely at the height of his neck. When she looks at him, she still needs to look up. It's getting closer. The crisp and delicious smell of the man's body rushed into her nose, and his whole body was filled with alluring male hormones. After Chiao Mian looked at him, her face flushed and her heart beat. She couldn't help but take a step back. He blushed, bit his lip and said, "Mr. Mo. Miss Chiao, I am a businessman." Mo Yesi lowered his eyes and raised his thin lips slightly. "We are talking about business. Since Miss Chiao wants me to help you, what benefits are you going to give me?" Chiao Mian was startled. Benefit? He looks like a man who needs everything. What good can she give him? "Mr. Mo, I don't know what you want." Yessie looked at her cute little face and said word by word with a bit of determination, if I say, I want a wife. Will Miss Jiao give it to me? What? Jiao Mian raised her head in shock. Yessie looked calm and said calmly, there is no free lunch in the world. Miss Jiao, I can agree to your request and help your brother perform the surgery. However, the premise is that you must marry me. This time, Jiao Mian was sure that she had heard correctly. She was beyond shocked. No matter what, I never expected that his request would be for her to marry him. This is too ridiculous. She was in disbelief. Mr. Mo, are you serious? Yessie raised his eyebrows and asked, do you think I'm joking? Why? With such good conditions, why can't he still find a wife? He actually wants a woman he met for the first time to marry him. Or, does he have something to hide? She looked down at him involuntarily. Yessie noticed and guessed what she was thinking. He frowned and his face suddenly turned dark. He was both amused and angry, and stretched out his hand to pull her over. Ah, Jiao Mian ran into his arms, and her head hit his warm and strong chest. It felt like she had hit a stone, and her nose turned red. Before he could react, one hand was pulled down by the man. From above his head, his deep voice was full of playfulness, Miss Jiao doesn't have to worry about being a widow after marriage. You can test me now to see if I'm normal. Jiao Mian blushed with embarrassment and pushed him away in a hurry. Mr. Mo, please respect yourself. She didn't expect that the seemingly cold and ascetic man would actually play tricks on her. Yessie looked at her blushing face, and his eyes deepened. She seems to love blushing, and it was the same last night. She cried and begged him for mercy, and her snow-white skin was alluringly pink. P.S. There will be another chapter tomorrow morning. Continue to call, favorite collection and 5-star comments to support the dance. Your support is the motivation for me to code. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 16. Chapter 16 Give you all the love you want. Recalling what happened last night, his eyes became hot when he looked at her. Jiao Mian met his eyes, her heart beat faster, and she became panicked for no reason. The man's eyes were full of obvious desire and possession, as if she was already in his possession. Even, she had the illusion that he had already grasped everything and knew that she would beg him today. Mr. Mo. She bit her lip and was silent for a moment, then looked at him and said, except for marrying you, I can do anything else you want. Before she could finish her words, he said in a cold voice, then we have nothing to talk about. You can go. Jiao Mian clenched her fists. She stood motionless. Yessie didn't chase her away either. Both of them were silent. After a moment, Jiao Mian took a deep breath and said in a trembling voice, if I marry you, will you help Chen Chen perform surgery? Yessie narrowed his eyes, you agree? Jiao Mian raised her lips and smiled bitterly, isn't this Mr. Mo's request? As long as you can cure Chen Chen, I am willing to marry you. Looking at the bitter and helpless smile on her face, Yessie frowned, with an unhappy expression on his face. He walked up to her. Stretching out his hand, he gently pressed his hands on her weak shoulders. There was rare seriousness in his deep black eyes. Every word seemed to be a guarantee and a promise, marry me, and I promise you won't regret it. I will do my best to give you all the love you want. From now on, we will share will and woe. Asterisk. The marriage certificate was issued very quickly. When they arrived at the Civil Affairs Bureau, there were people waiting outside to receive them. There is a dedicated service, and the marriage certificate will be issued in just a few minutes. Get out of the Civil Affairs Bureau. Chiao Mian looked at the small red book in her hand, feeling in a daze. As if in a dream. She actually got married? Things she had fantasized about and expected thousands of times would actually be accomplished under such circumstances. Asterisk. After getting in the car, Chiao Mian was still in a dream, with a dazed expression on her face. Beside her, her new husband Mo Yesi turned to look at her. Chiao Mian, don't act like you've suffered a loss. You married a rich and handsome man, and he will give you all the honors and favors in the future. Husband, you won't suffer. Although this marriage was clearly achieved deliberately by him, looking at her devastated look, he still felt very uncomfortable. Chiao Mian turned her head after hearing what he said. The man's profile is also extremely handsome. His eyes are half squinted, and two buttons on the collar of his high-quality black shirt are unbuttoned, revealing his collarbone. In the backlight, his handsome facial features appear more profound and three-dimensional, and his rolling Adam's apple exudes sexiness, but he also has a strong aura of abstinence. I have to say, he is indeed very good-looking. Moreover, he is very rich. At first, she thought he was a senior member of the Mo family. But now, she realized that his identity was much more prominent than she had imagined. He is the president of the Mo family and the only heir to the top wealthy Mo family. The Su family can be considered a famous family in Yunqing, but 10 Su families are not as good as one Mo family. Objectively speaking, she was indeed the one who took advantage in this marriage. The gap between them is too big. They should be two classes that have no contact with each other at all. Even if he is looking for a wife, he should find a daughter of a famous lady who is the right match for him, not someone like her whose family has fallen into disrepute. Of ordinary people. Thinking of this, Chiao Mian pursed her lips and said nothing. Master, Madam, are you going back to the company next? I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 17. Chapter 17. Let's go, I'm going to meet my brother-in-law. The driver has changed his tone and no longer calls her Miss Chiao. You want to go to the hospital to see your brother? Mo Yesi's cold eyes fell on her face. Yeah, Chiao Mian nodded. Mo Yesi then said, go to the hospital first. Chiao Mian was startled and said hurriedly, I'd better take a taxi myself. She knew he was busy. When he left Mr. Mo just now, there was still a tall pile of documents on his desk. Although the two are already husband and wife, they are not together because they love each other. Chiao Mian didn't really treat him as her husband, so she didn't want to trouble him too much. Mo Yesi ignored her and said directly to the driver, go to the hospital. With his persistence like this, Chiao Mian couldn't refuse any more. She was silent for a few seconds, pursed her lips, and then whispered, thank you. As soon as she finished speaking, Mo Yesi's dark and deep eyes covered her. He frowned and looked unhappy. Do you need to be so polite to your husband? Chiao Mian, I don't care if you haven't yet adapted to our relationship, but I don't want to hear these two words from your mouth again. When he said this, he felt depressed. The space in the car seems to be cramped. Chiao Mian was a little breathless under the pressure of this powerful aura. She swallowed her saliva, shrank back unconsciously, and whispered back, I know. She seemed to suddenly realize that the husband she married was rich and handsome, but he didn't seem to have a very good temper. As expected, no one is perfect. Asterisk. Arrived at the hospital. The driver got out of the car, walked to the back compartment, opened the door, and then stepped aside respectfully. Chiao Mian thought Mo Yesi just sent her here. She picked up her bag, got out of the car, and waved to the people in the car, then I'll leave first. You, please be careful on the road. She is really not used to the relationship between her and Mo Yesi now. The two of them were strangers who didn't know each other a second ago. Now, this man has become her husband. After she finished speaking, she turned to leave. But I heard a cold and magnetic voice coming from behind. Why are you so anxious? Who told you that I was going back to the company? Chiao Mian turned around. Seeing Mo Yesi also get out of the car, he straightened the buttons on his cuffs and slowly walked towards her. You. She was stunned. Mo Yesi walked up to her. He stretched out his long arms and took her into his arms. Surrounded by the warm and attractive breath of the man, with his hot hands still on her waist, Chiao Mian's face suddenly turned red. Just as she was about to push him away, she heard him say coldly, Chiao Mian, I want you to marry me, not to be a fake couple with you. Since we are already married, I should go and meet you. Family. Chiao Mian's body stiffened for a moment. She naturally knows. Before they went to get the marriage certificate, he said that he wanted to be a real husband and wife with her. So any physical contact is normal. She should not push away. She froze in his arms for a few seconds and did not struggle again. Mo Yesi then curled his lips with satisfaction and tightened his hand around her slender waist slightly. Let's go, I'll go see my brother-in-law. Hearing him use the title brother-in-law, Chiao Mian stiffened again. He walked into the hospital gate with his arms around her. Wait a minute, I have something to say. Chiao Mian tugged on his sleeve and stopped. Mo Yesi followed and stopped. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 18. From chapter 18 onwards, you can only think of me alone. He lowered his head and looked at her with a frown. What else do you want? She bit her lip and was silent for a while, as if thinking about something. After a while, she said to him in a consultative tone, can we not make our marriage public for now? As soon as he finished speaking, he felt that the air pressure on the man's body dropped again. Chiao Mian swallowed her saliva and didn't dare to look up at him. Chen doesn't know that I broke up with my ex-boyfriend. If I suddenly told him that I married you, he would be scared. Actually, this is only one consideration. On the other hand, Chiao Mian felt that her marriage to Mo Yesi would definitely not last long. Maybe he just had a whim, and maybe he felt bored after a while and divorced her. If it were anyone else, she wouldn't care if others knew she was married. But Jiao Chen. This is the person she cares about most. Girls are young and cannot hide their thoughts. Mo Yesi immediately guessed what she was thinking. A gloomy look enveloped the man's handsome face, and a cold air emitted from his body. You mean, you want to marry me in secret? He, Mo Yesi, has never been disliked like this. As long as other women have any relationship with him, they want to announce it to the world. But this woman in front of me. She is so afraid that others will know about their relationship. Is she still pretending to be a human being in her heart? She is still thinking about her ex-fiancé. Thinking of this, Mo Yesi's face became more and more gloomy, and his eyes were so cold that they almost formed a layer of ice. Chiao Mian met his gloomy eyes and was so frightened that she was speechless. Chiao Mian. The man pinched her chin with his slender and cool fingers, his eyes were cold and sharp, and he said word by word, you are my woman. From now on, you can only think about me. I have no plans to marry you in secret, and I have no plans now, there won't be any in the future. His fingers tightened slightly, and his tone was very domineering. You are not allowed to have such thoughts, do you hear me? His eyes were full of possessiveness. Looking at her eyes, he was looking at a prey that he had targeted. This prey belongs only to him. No one is allowed to point a finger at anything. Chiao Mian was a little frightened. This was the first time she met a man as domineering and powerful as him. It seemed like he would eat her up and wipe her clean at any moment. Asterisk. Walked outside the ward. Chiao Mian was still a little hesitant, but Mo Yesi had already reached out to push open the door, took her in his arms and walked directly in. Chiao Chen was holding a book and reading it. Hearing the noise, he raised his head. When he saw his sister walking in with a tall, handsome man holding her waist, Chiao Chen's eyes widened in surprise, and the books in his hands fell to the ground. He was stunned. "Sister, you." Chiao Chen also grew up with Suzy and Chiao Mian. The three of them have a good relationship. So when he was very young, Chiao Chen knew that his sister would marry his brother from the Su family. Suzy has always been kind to him, and Chiao Chen is also very satisfied with his future brother-in-law. In his heart, Suzy is already his brother-in-law. Suddenly seeing other men so close to Chiao Mian, Chiao Chen couldn't believe his eyes. Who is he? "Sister, you." Chen, he. Just when Chiao Mian was still hesitating about how to introduce her, Mo Yesi carried her to the bedside, looked down at Chiao Chen who was clearly frightened on the bed, and said directly, "I am your brother-in-law." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 19. Chapter 19, his sister, mustn't be cheating on her. Chiao Mian. The corners of her mouth twitched, and she didn't dare to think about Chiao Chen's reaction. What? Chiao Chen was stunned again, his eyes almost popped out. "Are you my brother-in-law?" He looked at Chiao Mian in panic and confusion, like a child lost at a crossroads. "Sister, what's going on? Isn't my brother-in-law Brother Z? Why has there been a change?" Mo Yesi's face darkened when he heard him mention Suzy. His aura is very scary when his face is sullen. Chiao Chen was immediately frightened, and his whole body trembled. Chiao Mian felt sorry for him the most. Seeing how frightened he was, she glared at Mo Yesi. "Why are you scaring Chen? He is still a patient. What should I do if you scare him?" "Now, I am not so afraid of Mo Yesi." Mo Yesi looked at her protective look and said disapprovingly, "As a boy, you are so timid. Are you used to it?" "You are too scary." Chiao Mian, who was in the calf protecting mode, became a lot more courageous and replied to him, Chen is not usually so courageous." In the hospital bed, Chiao Chen slowly recovered from the shock just now. He looked at Chiao Mian, then turned to look at Mo Yesi who was standing beside her. He still found it difficult to accept this fact. "Sister, is he really my brother-in-law?" As soon as Chiao Chen finished asking, a strong gaze fell on her back from behind. She was silent for a few seconds and nodded, "Yeah." "Chiao Chen. Then you and Brother Z." As soon as he mentioned Suzy, his scary brother-in-law glared at him again. Chiao Chen was so frightened that he didn't dare to continue speaking. When Suzy was mentioned, the expression on Chiao Mian's face became cold, and she said calmly, "He and I have broken up." Chiao Chen was stunned. "Why?" He glanced at Mo Yesi secretly, and suddenly thought of a possibility. He was not in good condition. This man who calls himself his brother-in-law is obviously not on the same level as Suzy. He is much more handsome than Suzy, and his temperament is even more noble and distinguished, especially his powerful and invincible aura, which Suzy can never compare to. Without comparison, Suzy's conditions are pretty good. But compared with this man, the difference between heaven and earth is like that. One is a young master from an ordinary family, and the other is a powerful man from an imperial family. There is no comparison at all. Chiao Chen felt that his sister must be cheating on her. He absolutely despises morally corrupt things like cheating. But Chiao Mian is his biological sister. What should he do if she really cheats? Just when Chiao Chen was thinking about whether to forgive or not, he heard Qiao Mian say coldly, he and Qiao Angzan are together. Qiao Chen was quiet for 2 seconds, and then his eyes widened in shock and anger. Did he cheat on you? He was actually with Qiao Angzan? How could they do this to you? Qiao Mian had no expression on her face. Anyway, Suzy and I will have nothing to do with each other from now on. Well, your sister has nothing to do with him from now on. The man who has a relationship with her is me. Mo Yesi walked over, put a hand on Qiao Mian's shoulder, and gently hugged her. Qiao Mian. Qiao Chen. After knowing that Suzy had cheated on Qiao Angzan, Qiao Chen was not so hard to accept this sudden appearance of his brother-in-law. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 20. Chapter 20. I will take good care of you siblings. He even felt relieved. This brother-in-law is countless times better than Suzy in every aspect. If Suzy doesn't know how to cherish his sister, there will always be someone who will. He will definitely regret it in the future. Qiao Chen looked at Mo Yesi and called out politely, brother-in-law. This brother-in-law made Mo Yesi very satisfied. He directly took off the watch he was wearing on his wrist, handed it to Qiao Chen and said, I decided to come here at the last minute. I didn't have time to prepare, so I will accept this as a meeting gift. Qiao Chen took a look and took a breath of surprise. That is a Patek Philippe diamond mechanical watch, which costs more than 2 million yuan. Several millions of things, and he just gave them away casually. How rich is his brother-in-law? Qiao Mian was also surprised. No, this watch is too expensive, Chen can't accept it. I said I can accept it, so I can accept it. Mo Yesi put the watch into Qiao Chen's hand, narrowed his sharp and deep black eyes, and said in a strong tone that could not be refused, I never accept the gift I sent out. It's up to you to do whatever you want. Qiao Chen was swayed by his aura. He didn't dare not accept it, but he felt that this meeting gift was too valuable, and he didn't dare to accept it casually because it was so valuable. Sister. He could only look at Qiao Mian for help. At this moment, Mo Yesi's cell phone suddenly rang. He took it out, looked at it, and picked it up. After a few seconds, he hung up the phone. There's something going on at the company. I have to rush over and take care of it, he said to Qiao Mian, let's have dinner together tonight. I'll ask the driver to pick you up then. After saying that, he looked at Qiao Chen again, relax and recover. From now on, I will be there for you in everything, and I will take good care of you siblings. They didn't know how precious Mo Yesi's promise was. It's also not clear what the promise given by a man at the top of power means. Asterisk. Soon, Mo Yesi left. Qiao Chen looked at the expensive watch in his hand with curiosity in his eyes. Sister, who is my brother-in-law? Is he rich? Even Suzy couldn't just give away a watch worth more than 2 million yuan to others. Well, quite rich. The Mahist family, the most powerful person in Yunqing, was as rich as the country. Not only rich, but also not ordinary rich. This watch. Qiao Chen grimaced, not knowing what to do with it. Leave it to me. Qiao Mian thought for a moment and stretched out her hand. This watch is too valuable and we can't accept it. I will find a way to return it to him. Qiao Chen nodded and handed the watch to Qiao Mian. This meeting gift is really too valuable. Even if he takes it, he has no use for it and must return it. Sister, how did you and your brother-in-law meet, and how long have you been dating? Qiao Chen was full of curiosity about this handsome, wealthy, and generous brother-in-law. Qiao Mian was peeling fruit for him. Hearing this, he hesitated for a moment, then cut a piece of the peeled apple and handed it to him. Chen, he and I, we got married. Qiao Chen looked at her in shock. Are you married? When did this happen? Today, let's take a look at the marriage certificate you went to get. She wanted to hide it from Jiao Chen at first, but since Mo Yesi had no intention of hiding the marriage, she couldn't hide it anymore. Cough cough cough. Jiao Chen choked on his own saliva. He thought it was incredible, like a fantasy. There will be another chapter tomorrow morning. If you like it, collect it and give it a 5-star rating. Give me some motivation to write. End of this chapter.